welcome or welcome back to Rise and Align, where we talk about all things high vibrational. My name is Demi.
And I'm Haley. Today we are diving into our winter episode. So we will have our Wheel of the Year complete, I believe. But we just really like to dive into the energy of the earth and the cosmos so that we can live more in alignment with the forces of nature. Winter is a time of deep rest, reflection, and nourishment. So I think that it is really important to start to slow down, find stillness, and go inwards at this time. We're kind of reflecting nature in that way after fall. After the leaves have fallen, the greenery has kind of died away, and it's just left with kind of dormantness and brown and not much going on. And I think that that's important for us as well to mimic that and just allow ourselves to be and to just settle more inwards.
I completely agree. I think this is such a perfect time to just allow yourself to be, to relax, to do things in the house like cleaning and things that you might not do during the busier seasons, just to take the time. And I also love doing things like going in the sauna or sitting by a fire, drinking hot drinks, or I'm thinking about going to a salt cave. I think that's just a cool thing. Like, there are fun things to do indoors that you can do during the wintertime, and I love doing that. And it's just something that's so relaxing and cleansing, and I think really good for this time of year. It can kind of bring warmth to your soul to do those kind of relaxing things during this time of year.
For sure. I feel like this time of year as well, our immunity is kind of being challenged with illnesses and stuff, and a lot of airborne stuff going on. So it is really important to, I think, to kind of indulge in more like self-care activities. And, that's super perfect for winter and doing the indoor things that we don't always do in the summertime. Like, I've actually never had a facial before, but I just scheduled myself to go to one with a friend in December, and I'm so excited. That seems like such a fun, calming, cozy winter thing to do. And going to yoga classes in the winter is actually really fun because you are not go as much, and you do find yourself maybe stuck inside. So it's fun to like go do things inside somewhere else. So I do like to do some yoga classes in the winter. I'm less likely to do that in the summer. And just like those calming, cozy, happy things, and going to cozy places to get like a cup of tea that's just like quiet and calming and happy is just everything in the winter. And I think it helps you get through it. I think we need to make sure that we're nourishing ourselves so that we can get through the darker months, because it can be really tough. Another thing that I think is important to talk about with winter is that it is a yin month. Summer is yang. It's high energy, it's more masculine energy, it's more doing. And by the time winter comes around, it is just more of that feminine receiving energy. So again, more introspective, more introverted, more being, slowness, just in terms of energy, and bringing us back to that concept of finding balance, using the seasons to find balance, using the cosmos to find balance. By fully embodying these concepts, we're better able to find balance within ourselves.
I completely agree. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about this podcast I listened to the other day. It was with Jay Shetty, of course, On Purpose. And he has an episode with Dave Asprey. Okay, I had to look up his name really quick. An episode with Dave Asprey, who talks about how you can do different things that will actually reverse your aging. And they talked a lot about the concept of being lazy and how we really shame ourselves for being lazy. And he said he only works out for 15 minutes a week, 5 minutes a day, 3 days a week. And he is 11 years younger than his actual age, like with biological testing. And he's going to do something soon that's going to reverse his age 9 more years. And he created this place you can go in California that does all these different biological age reversing things, right? So you'll have to check out the episode yourself. I'm obviously not educated on exactly what he was saying, but it was a lot to do with taking the right vitamins and supplements and things like that, and not pushing your body and not shaming yourself for being lazy. And I think that that's so important to really think about this time of year, because when you are shaming yourself for just relaxing, which by the way, a lot of the animals are hibernating the entire season, you feel bad. It doesn't feel good. I think that a lot of people will do that. And then when you feel that shame, sometimes you eat your feelings, or, just take on bad habits and you Netflix and chill all day every day, or kind of ignore your laundry or things like that. And it can be kind of hard around this time of year when the holidays are, which a lot of people look at the holidays like this is something that's going to cheer us up this time of year, and it can be, but it can also be really hard, because if you are alone or you just lost a loved one or anything like that, it really can be contrasting, because you go on the internet, or you're looking at Snapchat or whatever, and you see how everybody is with their family and you're sitting alone, and it doesn't feel great. So I think it's really important to really be giving yourself a lot of self-love and leeway, and not be shaming yourself, but be taking care of yourself. Like, I know right now I'm taking a whole bunch of extra vitamins that I don't take during the summer because we don't see the sun here, and I just want to really be taking care of myself. And I think too, a lot of people have the tendency to, they'll be like, well, in the summer I'm going to get my beach body back, but since it's winter, I'm just going to eat junk all holiday season, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to take care of my body, even in the winter months.
I kind of think of that concept as being your own light, or being your own sunlight, like letting the sunlight stem from within. Because if you are, doing things that make you feel good and happy and in alignment throughout the winter, though it is the dark months, we aren't seeing the sun as much, you can allow that happiness, that sunlight, that spark to stem from within. Obviously, the sun does provide all life on this planet. It does sustain it and provide us with necessary nutrients. But beyond that, do things that allow you to kind of feel warm and cozy and sunny from the inside out.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes too, like, because it is dark, we are going to be more tired, and so it's okay to sleep in on the weekend and, just stay cozy in pajamas and cook and bake and do fun things, spend time with your family and your pets and stuff while you can. I think that those things can be put into a positive light, rather than being like, oh, you're being lazy, you're not doing enough, because this is the season to be lazy, actually.
And I think it matters most the energy that you're putting into something, or the intention that you're putting into something. If you are eating the junk food, if you are having those shameful or guilty energies when you're consuming that, that is what the energy of the food is going to be.
Yeah.
But if you're allowing yourself to indulge in that and be still having more of a positive perspective, like, this is delicious, I'm so excited to eat this, like, I'm healthy, like, still keeping a positive mindset about it, I think that, the food is still going to reflect that in your body. It's always about intention. So if you're sitting on the couch and watching Netflix, instead of being like, wow, I'm super lazy, I should be doing X, Y, and Z right now, unacceptable, whatever, instead of reframing that and being like, I'm going to let myself have this time to enjoy this show, be fully present with it, not allow myself to worry about work or what I should be doing, and just enjoy and be still and let yourself be in that without all of the worry and
judgment. And yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I know we've talked a lot about being present. Obviously, I really believe in being here now is the key to life. But I think that this season, it's especially important to take your time and to be present during this time. And we really do have the time right now, which is a thing to cherish, I think. In the dark months, it's a leeway for that solitude.
Yeah, it is kind of giving us the blessing of time because this is the time where you can explore new hobbies. This is the time where you get to bake. This is the time you can relax. This is the time that you can do all the things you didn't have time for in the summer.
Exactly. And I think that holding that perspective around wintertime too can be life-changing, honestly, because so many people will look at winter and be like, oh, we're going into the dark months, here comes seasonal depression. But you can also look at it like, oh, we're going into the dark months, I'm so excited that I can just, kind of do whatever I want to do, which you always can, but I do believe that it seems as though we have more time in the winter to just enjoy and just to be and to kind of pursue those things that sound exciting to us. And I still love, and I think it's so important to go on adventures during the winter as well, whether that be indoors, like we were talking about doing like spa related things, or going antiquing, or even just going outside. I know a lot of people are like, I don't know, it's pretty cold out there, but it's really beautiful out there. And I love how each of the seasons changes so much. So even if you're in your hometown, you can go to, like for us, we live by Lake Superior, you can go to the beach and it looks different almost every single day. And I love getting out there and seeing that. Like winter is actually incredibly beautiful, magical, snowflakes and icicles I think are so pretty.
And quiet and serene.
Yeah, it is. It's really serene outside, especially like when you're out there and it's lightly snowing. It's so peaceful and calm, and it really is magical. And I think that it can be easy to be like, oh, I'm not going outside because it's too cold. And I know for me, if I don't go outside often enough, I will start to get depressed. And like, I can tell that like I'm grumpy. My house is getting messier, even though I have the time to clean it. And I think it's really important to make sure that you're still getting out during these months, that you're not kind of losing yourself. I know COVID for a lot of people was a blessing because we went inward, but also a curse because so many people spent so much time inside and kind of, became depressed, and took on bad habits and things like that. So I think it's important to, make sure that we are getting out no matter what that is, and still exploring and still, exploring inward too.
I couldn't agree with that more. It's so important to get outside, even in the winter. Nature is medicine, and you can always become more present when you spend time in nature. Like I always find myself coming back to the present moment and just admiring how beautiful here now is when I'm out in nature. And it has a lot of health benefits as well, to get fresh air and to let the sun shine on your skin. Even in the winter, it may not feel warm, but it's still, you're soaking in all the good stuff. And to me, there's nothing better than after a big snowstorm going outside, because it's like the world is asleep. It's just like the fresh blanket of snow, and just everything is so dormant and quiet and peaceful, and it's just super magical and beautiful, as you had said. I was thinking about this morning. I tend to resist winter at first before it comes. I'm always like, oh no, winter. But once it's finally here, it's actually a sigh of relief for me. I'm like, it's like you get to take a deep breath and then just sit there and be. And there's nothing better than that. Even in yoga, when you get to, take a seat on your mat and allow yourself to find presence in the moment, that's, to me, is what winter feels like. You get to release, relax, like let go of all of the heaviness of the year, all of the busyness of the year so far, and the intensity. And though some amazing things may have happened, though some hardships may have happened, you can like just not have to worry so much anymore. It just feels so good. It's just like,
Take the pressure off. And when you said that too, so if you do practice yoga, you know, at the end of every practice, no matter if it's yang yoga and you're sweating and it's more like Pilates, you always end the practice calm and either shavasana, laying down on your back, or sitting cross-legged usually. And like most, if not all, of the people who I've ever practiced with say, take this time to let your practice sink in. Like, this is the most important pose of the practice. This is the most important part of the practice. Take this time to let it sink in. Just release the weight of your body and let your practice sink in. And I think that that is a beautiful representation for what winter should be used for, is to kind of let it sink in. Like, let all of your practices, everything that you were working towards, everything that you were manifesting, let it sink in.
I'm so happy you went there, because I was thinking the exact same thing. It does allow you to soak in the year. And if you think about in terms of emotions and things, to fully process your emotions or trauma, you have to allow yourself to let it like fully process. By shutting it out or pushing it away or distracting yourself, you can never like process those things through. And I think that's the same with life too. Like, this gives you the chance to like process your life and to like let it sink in. And I think without that, you're forever distracted and unpresent with what has happened.
That's so good. I think that in the winter time, a lot of people feel lonely, but we need to be alone to really feel what's going on internally. And yes, to process trauma or process growth, or, you know, whatever we're going through. Because if we're always with somebody else, we're always busy, we're always distracting ourselves, we're always doing, then we don't take the time to be or feel. And without that, we really can't grow. Like, we're just constantly distracting ourselves from that. And I think too, a lot of people will use their phone or Netflix or whatever kind of technology to sit and scroll or to distract in some way. And it's really important to be alone with yourself. And they say too, like, obviously, you know, we need other people in our lives to help us grow. And, you know, when you're alone, if you're good at being in alignment, it's easy to be in alignment when you're alone. But if you're not good at being alone and you're not used to being alone, it can be scary. Actually, I was talking to somebody about yoga, and I said, you know, it really brings you into a meditative state, and it's really wonderful. Like, sometimes even yang yoga can bring you there, or breath work. And they said, I don't think I want to be in a meditative state. And I said, why on earth not? I think everyone needs to get there. I think it's really important for self-development, you know, and to find peace and, you know, inner alignment with inner being, with source, with all that is. It's really, really important that we all do that. And they said, well, I don't want to be alone in my head. And that was actually really big to me, because I think a lot of people feel that way. They fear that aloneness. They fear hearing and feeling their thoughts.
I've experienced similar things with people before as well. And a lot of times it's the people who say they're not the meditative type. I've had someone who would come to yoga classes but not do the meditation part because they're not the meditation type. And that is the most important part. And the people who, quote unquote, again, are not the meditative type need it the most.
Yes.
Because they're the ones that are resisting being with themselves. They're the one resisting it the most, which says that they're needing it more than anyone else.
Yes, 100%. Those are my thoughts exactly. And one, like, I know that my beliefs are strong, but I think if you're a human, you're the meditative type, and you definitely should be. You should definitely be doing that. And two, people who resist that, and they'll say things like, well, we just have different interests. I'm just not interested in doing that. I do other things. Are you ever alone in silence with yourself, with your thoughts? And usually the answer is no. Usually they're always watching TV or scrolling on their phone or playing video games or with somebody else or drinking or smoking or doing something to distract from their own feelings and thoughts. And you can't heal that way.
Agreed.
You have to face the shadows, and now is the time.
That's why I think it's so important to create either one, a sacred space that makes you so happy to enter, where you feel more comfortable and excited to explore inwards and to explore your practices, to do journaling or yoga or meditation or drawing, whatever it is that you want to do in your solitude. But also just to have your home in general be a place that makes you happy, a place that you love being in alone, and you're excited to be there and excited to do your thing, and you know, you have it set up in a way that works for your practices, or you know, you have a I just think it's so important to just be mindful of how you decorate your home and set up your home. Like, make it a good place that you want to be in.
I think most people spend a lot of time in their home, and it's really, really important that you like the space, that you feng shui it the way you want, that you're happy and excited to go home and to be home and to spend time in your cozy home. And if you don't feel that way about your home, now is a perfect time to rearrange and to buy decorations and buy some plants and make it a space that you love. And it doesn't matter how big or small or whatever it is. If you take care of your space and you clean it and you make it how you want it to be, it's going to be a cozy, happy place to be. And it's going to be a lot easier to be spending time there alone. And two, you were saying to make it a practice, like a space, sacred space for you to do those practices in, so that you're more excited to do them. And I so agree with that. And I've, you know, when I first started meditating, and granted, like, I'm not super strict about it. A lot of people will do it every single day. I tried for a long time, and I think that yoga is a moving meditation for me, and I do that every single day. But actual meditations, I do less often. Maybe like once a week, I'll do like a longer one. But there was a time when I first started meditating and I didn't really even understand how to get into that state, and I didn't like it, and I didn't want to sit still, and I felt like my thoughts were constant and never ending, and I felt like I was doing it wrong and it was uncomfortable. Again, that's when you need it the most. But also, you can make it more enjoyable. And a lot of people will say, like, it's not as effective to do like a guided practice, but I think it's a really wonderful way to teach you how to get into that state. And that's kind of how I had to do it at first, is to follow a guided meditation to understand how to get there and to distract my mind a bit. I also watched a video from Russell Brand one time who was saying the same thing. He was like, I really couldn't meditate. My brain is ADHD. It's constantly running, and I just couldn't get to that state. And his, I think maybe like guru or somebody at the time had recommended that he pick a word or like a topic to focus on while he meditated, so that he had something he was like, quote unquote, allowed to think about and focus on, but so that he could calm his thoughts. And that is so helpful. I also, the other day, was talking to somebody who was having a hard time sleeping, and I said, just focus on your breath. And like, don't try not to think about anything else or move. Just pay attention to your breathing, just the in and out of your breathing. And they started counting their breaths, and they said that helped me so much. I was able to fall asleep in other places that weren't even my home, that I wasn't even comfortable in, just by doing that. And they said, yeah, because it gives your mind something to focus on.
That's amazing. I feel like I would have recommended the same things, like guided meditations. I think they also train your body and train your mind to get into that practice as well. And in terms of, you know, the other things you had said, that's exactly what they teach in yoga as well. In yoga, they use a lot of mantras, and I'm sure you've heard like the I don't want to say cliche, but like yogis with their meditation and they're saying that's a mantra, and that's actually the same purpose. They repeat that over and over again, and it has other meanings to it, but it's also to keep bringing themselves back to the moment and to kind of stop their thoughts from drifting. But I do think it's important to note something that I this is like second nature to me now, but I'm realizing is something that not everyone knows to do this or has even thought about doing this before. But in yoga and in meditation, I have been taught to act like you're the observer of yourself. So if you think about it, you have the human part of you that is speaking and thinking, but you also have like another aspect of you, like the spiritual connection of you, where you can actually observe yourself doing these things. It's almost like you can do those two things at once. Mm-hmm. It's really weird when you try to explain it, but when you're, in meditation, imagine yourself observing your thoughts, and you can notice what comes up, and you can kind of think from a more
almost like a third person, like an outer external perspective.
Yeah, you can look at things from a different perspective, not being so attached to the you, the ego that's having the thoughts. Like, you get to watch that, and you can notice patterns within yourself when you do that, and you can more easily say, I see you, thank you, but you're not serving me right now. And you can like look at yourself from this like 3D perspective, and it's very interesting. But I have found that to be helpful as well, because then you kind of detach yourself from your ego, from your 3D, like your body. You can kind of, not that you should disconnect from your body, but you can just kind of disconnect from all the distractions and see things for what they are. And I found that connects me to my higher self. And honestly, I think that is your higher self.
Yes, I 100% agree. I think that when you are taking that time and space to get into a meditative state, it is healthy, and it does allow you to detach from not only the ego and the physical body, but the physical realm in general. And it allows you to take on the source perspective, or the God perspective, which is unconditionally loving and non-judgmental. So you're no longer having a thought like, oh, I feel fat today, and judging it and feeling this shame and guilt and negativity, but love for that. And actually, you're perfect as you are. And, I love you for being and for bettering, and for, recognizing you can change the perspective to much more positive. And you can also recognize that when you are feeling negative emotion, you're not in alignment with source. And I love to tell people to use their negative emotion as a trigger to ask, what would source think about what you are thinking? Because whenever it's negative, whenever you're feeling negative, it is not the same perspective that God would hold about the subject. It never is. And I think that when you can even use the observer perspective in life in general. And when you allow yourself to go to that place and ask yourself, like, what is the source perspective? What is inner being perspective or God perspective on this? It allows you to detach from the human emotion, which I'm not saying you shouldn't feel or to like not do that all the time, but it can help you make more aligned decisions. And instead of, like, for example, say you're out in public and somebody says something negative to you, or they cut you off in traffic or whatever. Humans will get very offended and take it extremely personally and get angry about it and allow their emotions to take over. But if you look at it from God perspective, you might come up with, well, maybe they're having a really bad day. Maybe they're on their way to a funeral, or, maybe something bad happened to them that made them act that way towards me. And maybe it's not personal at all, and it allows you to, I think more clearly and become more aligned with your true beingness, which is eternal.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I want to touch base on, kind of on that subject, and I've talked about this in a more recent podcast episode, but all creation, I think, comes from the void, the darkness. And when you are in a meditative space, you are in a place of like stillness, of darkness, of just being. And I think that that is so important to allow growth to stem from. Like, you have to have that darkness before creation. That is seen in nature with seeds being planted in the ground. That's seen in the womb, the mother's womb. That's seen in, the new moon. It is the dark moon, and that is when we're setting intentions. We're planting, our intentions into the dark void. And I think that winter is resemblant of that as well. It's the darkness, it's the stillness, and we need that sacred pause to allow for more growth or creation going forward.
Mm-hmm. It is the place of birth of life. Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. And as you were saying that, when we talked about this in a recent podcast, I'm not even sure which one it was, I had mentioned that I did this meditation one time, that it actually came from one of my tarot card sets. There was like a website you could go to, and you were meant to envision yourself in the infinite darkness. A lot of people, when they envision that, will be scared. They'll be anxious. They'll be afraid to let go of ego and of their body and of the safety of the knowing, or like the facade of control that we think we have. Mm-hmm. But it instead allowed us to see that darkness, that infinite darkness, as the womb of the mother of all that is. And it makes it into a safe space. The unknown is safe, and it is warm, and it is cradling you in its embrace. And I also thought, if you've never done this, I highly recommend go do a salt float. You go into these pods, and the water is the same temperature as your body, and so is the air. And I think you can have like lights in them, but you can also have them dark, and you can have them silent, or you can play like some kind of meditative music in them. You can request that. But if you want to go deeper and you feel like you're ready, I really highly recommend doing that, because it makes you feel like you don't have this body, and like you are floating in that infinite all that is, and like you're part of it too. But I also think that if you've never done that and you're kind of scared, don't do it. Don't do it just yet. Start meditating first, because I could see how that would be a uncomfortable and difficult experience as well. But if you're ready and you do meditate, is so beautiful and allows you to go really deep inward. And I just remembered that I think I have a free salt float left and I'm gonna have to go do it soon.
Oh yes, that also reminds me, winter is just such a good time, well, as we kind of bring all of these things together, it's going to heal our nervous system and calm our nervous system, and that in itself has lots of health benefits. But I just think it's such a great benefit to doing all of these things during the winter, and to invite that slowness in, because our nervous systems are so overwhelmed by the constant stimulation of today's society and the constant pressure and expectations, that in order to continue to move forward, you have to allow your nervous system to rest and to heal. So I think all of those things kind of help you do that as well.
Definitely. And I know this is going to sound a bit contrasting, but balance is key. I remember specifically this TikTok video. It was, I think, last year at about this time, and it said this is the time of year when the clocks change, that people have a tendency to sleep in and get lazy and, quit doing their practices. And I think to truly be unconditionally aligned, you've got to keep doing those things that make you feel in alignment. I like a challenge. I like to be challenged. And I think that if you can stay aligned during these months, then when it's easier to stay aligned, your life is going to be that much better,
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of nice to say, even though I wanted to sleep in, I got up and I did my yoga and I took care of myself and I took the time and I did the things. And it's so rewarding to be like, I did it. I can do hard things. I did
Mm-hmm.
it. And to do that throughout winter time, and like, granted, don't burn yourself out. Like, don't force yourself to constantly do things that don't feel good, but take care of yourself even when it's hard. You're going to find that then when things come up in life that are challenging, you're going to be able to get through them easier because you have that practice.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I kind of wanted to go back on a different tangent. Being the witch that I am, I like to stay in tune with the fire festivals and the solstices and the equinoxes, just as part of the wheel of the year. And the start of winter is the winter solstice. So this is the darkest day of the year. It is the day where we experience the least amount of sunlight. And that is usually approximately on December 21st. And that usually marks the beginning of Yule as well, if you've heard of that celebration. And I think that it would be just super fun to kind of talk about some of the older traditions that has stemmed from that, because obviously we do, a lot of us, at least in the US, celebrate Christmas. I don't even celebrate true Christmas. I would say I celebrate more of like Yule, but it's just such a I'm thinking of like a consumeristic societal thing that's been like trained in us, even if we aren't like Christians. I don't know, but just along those lines, I think it'd be fun to kind of know the history of where Christmas even stemmed from, which is Yule, which is the winter solstice. A lot of the practices that we do actually align with what they did previously, and these celebrations are or began before Christianity. And I think Yule specifically was more of a Germanic tradition, or it began there. So Yule, it does start on the solstice, and a lot of times they would have a Yule tree, which a lot of us now have Christmas trees, but basically this represented the tree of life. And in ancient times, it was decorated with gifts people wanted to receive from the gods. It was adorned with natural ornaments such as pine cones, berries, and other fruits, and then symbols that were sacred to their gods and goddesses. Some holiday traditions, they made garlands of popcorn, berries, and so that if it was outside, the birds could feed from that as well. I think that's super fun. Something that I've been incorporating myself. I like to dry like citra, like oranges or lemons. You can dry them and hang them on your tree. And then I've just been inviting more of those natural elements because I think it's so much more fun and it's better for the earth, and it's just more natural and rewarding if you can make decorations for yourself. And a lot of times it just makes your home smell really good too. They also would burn a Yule log. And so the ancient Scandinavians would burn a huge log that fell from an ash tree to honor their god Thor. In Celtic tradition, they did a continual fire. So they kept the fire going. I think it was for 12 days to prevent spirits from entering their home at this time. And they chose to do an oak tree. They would bring it in their house, a fallen fallen oak they'd bring into their home, and the trunk was placed into what they would use as their fireplace. And they would usually save remnants from that to start the burn for the next year, which I thought was really interesting. And it also just kind of represented the sun returning, because after solstice, the days slowly start getting longer and the sun does return. So it's kind of like a moment of rebirth, and it's also kind of bringing like an inner spark of like, you can do this, the sun is returning. So I think that's a really fun and special tradition. And I know a lot of people bake, it's kind of like a Swiss roll, if you know what I'm talking about, but they call it a Yule log,
Yeah.
which I think is a fun way to kind of honor that tradition. And I've made mini Yule logs for Superior Crystal Coven with juniper and cinnamon and orange slices, and just a really happy thing to represent that tradition. And a lot of times people are burning candles at this time, which also has that same kind of vibe of like keeping away negativity, reminding yourself that the light is returning, and it kind of brings that protection element.
Yes.
And then there are some other important like natural elements that was popular at this time. So evergreens were cut and brought indoors to symbolize life, rebirth, and renewal. They were thought to have power over death because their green never faded, and they were used to defeat winter demons and hold back death and destruction. Because of their strength and tenacity, they were also believed to encourage the sun's return. And then this is really interesting. So we associate with Christmas, trees, Christmas trees, holly, mistletoe. So holly, it represents the masculine element, which was often used to decorate indoors, windows, and fireplaces. Because of its prickliness, it was thought to capture or ward off evil spirits before they could enter a home and cause harm. The holly leaves were symbolic of the holly king, which represented hope, and the red berries represent potency. Mistletoe, on the other hand, represents the female element, or feminine energy. And it was really important. It was used in special ceremonies with druids during the winter solstice, and they believed that the green leaves represented the fertility of the mother goddess. The white berries, the seed of the forest god or oak king. Druids would harvest the mistletoe from sacred oak trees. They just believed that it had sacred energy and it would pour back into their home, and it was hung over doorways as protection against thunder, lightning, and other evils, and was an amulet for fertility and hung above the headboard. So we have like mistletoe, like kiss underneath the mistletoe, which is really interesting. It represents fertility. A lot of these ancient practices get carried along, and though we're trained to kind of look at them differently, the roots of these things are just really cool, and a reminder of how much they actually connected to and honored earth back then. Like for them, all of the plants had a special meaning and had special intention, and now we just like go to the store and buy plastic for no reason, and like I don't know, buy plastic gifts and stuff, and it totally loses the meaning for me. The last couple things I wanted to say on this subject is that wreaths were made to symbolize the wheel of the year and the completion of another cycle. They were made with evergreens, cones, berries, and hung throughout the home. They were also given as gifts to symbolize the infinity of goodwill, friendship, and joyfulness. So that would be a super fun thing to do, to make with friends or to make for a friend. And then some crystals that are good for like tapping into this energy are rubies, bloodstones, garnets, emeralds, and diamonds. And you'll see that, you know, they're red and green. Those are the traditional Christmas colors. But the reason that they're Christmas colors is because those are the things that have color outside right now, like the evergreen trees and red berries. Those are like the only things that have color out there and the things that survive the winter. So it all comes back to nature and the connection with nature.
Yes, so many of the things that you mentioned were about bringing in life and light and warmth. And I think that's so important during this time of year. I love that. Thank you for sharing those things.
Yes, you're welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed that too. That stuff means so much to me, and it makes the holidays have more meaning to me and more significance, and I'm able to connect more spiritually with the holidays, just because, like I said, this time can feel like we have so much pressure on us to buy X, Y, and Z and to make our house look like X, Y, and Z and do this or that, whatever. I don't care about any of that. I just want it to be like good intentions, honoring nature, like bringing those intentions from nature inside and genuinely gifting people things that I think are going to be really valuable, or just genuinely from my heart, things that I made. I just don't think it has to be so high pressure.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that just the concept of giving, even if it's like Christmas cookies or like a cute little wreath you made or something like that, it feels good to give, and it also feels good to make people feel special. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, well, I have to spend this much money on this person, or I know they want this new toy or whatever. It can just be like showing gratitude for them or showing love to them. And that is really special. And that's what it should be about.
Yeah. Gifting your time to them and doing an activity with them. Like nothing is more precious than time. So sharing your time with someone, doing something that's magical or fun, even if it's going outside for a walk and admiring nature, or foraging for things that you can come inside and make a craft with. Like that's free, but that's the best thing I think you could do. Like that would make me more happy than getting any sort of gift, you know?
Yes, completely. Also, now I definitely want to get a live tree in my house now that I'm like understanding deeper the meaning. Like I always loved the smell and stuff, but now I'm like, now I need one. And also, when you were talking about they used to put food on the trees because the animals would come, I think now I want an outdoor Christmas tree because I'm like, well, it would bring so much life to the yard to have animals come eat. How magical would that be to have all the little birds coming to eat the popcorn? Like, I want that. That's so happy.
I know. And winter was such a scarce time when there wasn't grocery stores. There wasn't food.
It still kind of is, but
yeah. So the animals can't really go into the grocery store, but we can. So, I mean, like, obviously you'd want to get things that are okay for them to eat, but like, that's so cool.
Yes.
They don't have to starve.
Yes. I'm now grocery shopping for the animals for my outdoor Christmas tree to bring life.
What is the fairy tale? Is it Snow White or who has all like the animals around them all the time?
Is it Snow White?
I don't know if it is.
It's either that or like Cinderella.
Maybe.
No, it's not Cinderella. Is it? It has to be Snow White.
I don't remember, but she has the 7 dwarves, so I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
Snow White and the 7 dwarves.
But anyways, it's like that fairy tale with the princess who has the animals around her all the time.
Yes, that's the vibe. That is the vibe. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that completes this episode. We'll definitely finish off the episode with a tarot pull. So this is your chance to start getting introspective, get a message from source, and just kind of see what it means.
Also, like we always talk about journaling on this, and I personally sometimes will write down things that I want to remember to do or to look up, or like right now I'm like, I need to buy holly and mistletoe. So I will write things like that down in my journal just so that I can go back on one day when I'm like, oh, I have nothing to do, and be like, oh, that's my highest excitement. I need to go find mistletoe.
Okay, this is like cheating. I mean, I didn't cheat, but it just,
This is like cheating.
it's always just too accurate.
The moon. So there are two wolves in this one, and one is white and one is black. So they're representing balance, as we did talk about. There's also water, which can represent the flowing of emotions, and the moon herself, which often represents the darkness and the subconscious and the feminine.
Yes, this is my favorite card. I just love the moon. I pull it all the time. It's ridiculous. I feel like I haven't gotten through half the deck because I'm too busy pulling the moon card. Anyways, the moon card, like you had kind of had said, it represents mysteries, illusions, secrets, intuition, subconscious, uncertainty. The moon is one of the most magical and mysterious tarot cards. The card depicts a three-phase moon, crescent, growing, and full. A dog and a wolf are sitting by a stream, which is our subconscious, and howling at the moon, representing both the tamed and wild aspects of our nature. The moon represents our feelings, emotions, intuition, and ever-changing nature. The moon's appearance, oh my gosh, here's me with appearance again. The moon's appearance in a reading usually signifies a period of increased imagination, creativity, emotions, and deep awareness. The moon also has a hidden dark side full of secrets. This may be why many readers interpret the moon as an illusion card. The moonlight hides certain truths and unravels old secrets. If you're going through moments of uncertainty, the moon suggests not to make impulsive decisions or force anything. Weigh all the pros and cons or let things take their natural course. The moon serves as a reminder to listen to our inner voice and intuition. We all go through times of cloudy judgment, uncertainty, misunderstanding. That is okay. Just as the sky births the new moon every month, you too have an ability to find your true self and let go of any fear or doubt. The reverse meaning of this card, if this aligns with you, the moon in reverse is linked with anxiety, disappointment, and self-sabotage. The moon reversed suggests you should examine the shadows to see what you fear. Shine your inner light and ask yourself, what is preventing me from being the widest and bravest expression of myself? It is time to let that go. Face your fears, do the inner work each day, invite more and more light into your life. So, I don't think that could represent winter anymore. I think it did touch on something that I don't think we went in depth on, but I think at this time in the winter, our inner darkness is going to start coming out. So it talks about the moon in reverse is linked with anxiety, disappointment, self-sabotage. So may it be because the holidays are lonely or because it's dark and you're not leaving your house, but feelings like that are likely to start coming out in the winter. And I think that, don't repress them or shove them away. This is when you should face them and allow them to come out, acknowledge them, and then shine your inner light on them, work through them, process them. So yeah, I think it's a good time to explore your inner shadows.
Absolutely. And also asking yourself, where those feelings are coming from. Why are you feeling this way? What are you afraid of? Is really, really good and can be so helpful when you're doing that kind of work. But yeah, couldn't be more perfect as always.
As always. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being here and supporting us and for working towards living a life more in alignment. We always say, we're like a snowball effect. You're going to touch more and more people with your light. And so we're just really happy to allow this magic to continue to spread through you and then let that continue to grow amongst this community. So I could have said that more gracefully, but I hope you get what I mean.
Thank you for helping us raise the frequency. We're so appreciative for your time and energy. And as always, we love you and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.